Starting stand-up is what happens when you point a microphone at a midlife crisis. Hi, I'm David Walton, and after 20 years as a TV and film actor, I'm sharing the messy, uncensored journey of learning stand-up comedy, from bombing at open mics to questioning every life decision that led me here. It's part comedy workshop, part therapy session, and most certainly career suicide. Please enjoy.
Oh man, that's rubbish! That's rubbish!
Here's the update. We had a great event happen last week. We did our first stand-up set that really felt like a real stand-up set and got immediately rewarded as the hosts of the open mic invited me to do their particular shows for a paying audience. Of course, I will do those. One of the things that they asked after is, how much material do I have? Do you have 10 minutes? That's sort of a normal starting point. And I don't have 10 minutes. That last open mic was about 6 minutes. I'm working on something. I'm making a lot of progress really quickly, and it's very exciting. What's happened today in particular is that I realize that I'm not at the point in stand-up where like I'll get fulfillment by making jokes about like airplanes. Phase I'm in of stand-up is stand-up as free therapy, where I have poison. We all have just poison. And I use this to figure out what the poison is, what I think, get it out, just get it out of me, and then figure out a way to make it something I can perform. I got sent a video of Ocho Cinco, who is an NFL receiver, beautiful black man. And he's on the Stephen A. Smith podcast talking about how he was with a girl and she said, go deeper, and his pee-pee couldn't go any deeper. And this video is beyond funny. But this man, and then Ocho Cinco admits that he got corrective surgery because he doesn't want to be embarrassed wearing a Speedo. But he said something after. He goes, look, I don't have anything to hide. And Stephen A. Smith was just looking at him in abject horror and shock. Anyway, Ocho Cinco's raw honesty and openness was jaw-dropping and frankly inspiring. And it's inspiring me. To be honest, not about my dick. That's not the issue. Although if someone knows Ocho Cinco's doctor, please share the number. Something else. What the deeper issue is that I'm the poison, if you will, that I'm struggling with in life. I'm feeling pretty lost in my life. There seems to be this like deep conflict I have between wanting to like go on meditation silent retreats where I've gone and felt profound peace, just meditating, letting go, wanting to go on spiritual adventures, and then there's the other side, which is just the crushing stress of life and keeping my kids nurtured, educated, fed, and clean, keeping my relationships with my wife and my family and my friends nurtured, keeping my acting career going. I differentiate between living, which is kind of this act of just like errands, surviving, like, yeah, we're just living, we're trying, like all this stuff, washing dishes, and then this idea of life, which I consider this very sacred thing. It's flippant to say midlife crisis, but it's a profound and common thing. The best way I can say it, it's almost like I feel like I am living the wants and desires of someone who is no longer around. Like ultimately, I decided to become an actor. It just seemed pretty straightforward. Like I left Brown for New York and tried to make it. But now, almost 25 years later, I'm still on that wave. I'm still out at sea, like paddling around on the surfboard. I'm floating and I'm wondering like, wait, should I be going to shore? Not that I even want to stop acting, but the industry has changed so much. The money's not what it used to be. The projects are fewer and farther between. So I feel like I'm on the precipice of this big change, but I'm still lost. I'm lost. And I really want stand-up to help me work through that lostness. One of the things that is a premise that we're going to work on today is this profound draw I have towards spirituality. But as much as I study and meditate and teach, in many ways, I'm just becoming more aware of what a complete and total degenerate I am, and how flawed I am, and how just I don't have my shit together. At the moment, the placeholder is people think mindfulness makes you more enlightened. No, it just makes you fully aware of what a disaster you are. And then I'll get into the laughs. But let's open up the hood. All right, so here we are. Now, we kind of have these 4 premises that have been arising through almost like a therapy session. I recorded a phone conversation I had with a mentor of mine, an older wise man. And it's always extremely deep. He's a very deep man. He has a lot to say, and I can tell him kind of anything. I sometimes avoid conversations with him because I know they're going to be heavy. But what's really fascinating and has been swirling around in my mind is that the deeper something is, that the more profound it is to you and true to you, the more potential there is for comedy. I took the transcript of, I got permission, I recorded my conversation, which is essentially a therapy conversation. And then I plugged it into my trusty AI. It's a 40-minute conversation. There's a lot there. And I did all the edits, and I got it really tight so it knows exactly who is saying what. And then I asked it to kind of, well, I originally wanted it just to ask it to help me sort through stuff. Almost like a really good therapist would, like showing you, giving you insights, distilling some of your thoughts, giving you more clarity, words, framing your problems in more precise language. Actually, it was a very serious conversation. I said, is there anything in here that's has comedic potential? And it was wild. It was crazy what it busted out, which I'll share with you right now. So there were 4 premises that I thought I'm going to explore that came out of this 40-minute conversation. There was one where Jim asked me, what would I do if I couldn't act, And I talked about how I was sort of envying like the tree trimmers who just chainsaw the fallen trees around my neighborhood, or these electricians who came in to fix a socket that had gone out in our house. And I was just like, I was envious of not only like the 9-to-5 job where you're like cruising around, you're out in the world, you're working with the physical world, you're not up in your head. And I was just sort of telling him that I wonder sometimes if I'm just going to retire to some rural area and become an electrician or something. And then Claude, the AI, was like, your envy of electricians and tradespeople is rich comedy territory. You could explore the irony of spending years trying to be special in Hollywood only to find yourself jealous of guys who just actually fix things. The bit could contrast the fake problems of entertainment, like my character's motivation isn't clear, with real problems, like my house is literally on fire. There's something there. There's another one which I ended up really exploring, which is religious experiences in modern life. And that's the contrast between having profound spiritual experiences and then coming home to take out garbage cans and just losing my shit. I had a story which I'll figure out how to tell this in a comedic way, but it was as close as I've come to Jack Nicholson in The Shining in my 6 years in Maine. It was like pulling my garbage cans a quarter mile through like heavy snow and just being so angry about it, like totally unreasonably, like raging, like I completely lost my mind and no one was around and I was just fuming. And then I get home, I'm trying to tire the anger out, like I'm pulling these things and I say I'm not going to stop. I basically wanted to like die on the ground after pulling them. And then I get inside, I still have all this rage, and I drink a glass of orange juice and it all goes away. It's just like perfect mood again. So it's like the realization that I think I'm having this existential crisis, but really I'm just a fucking toddler that needed some juice. I need some juice. And that's a rich experience because there's so much of that at this stage of life, just like, and I think it's one of the downfalls of sort of going into spiritual stuff is that everything becomes, I don't know, like meaningful, and sometimes your blood sugar just plummets and you're just pissed and that's it. And there's nothing else to it. Anyway, those are a couple. There was some more that might be there, but those were the two that. So then I put a little pin in the electrician thing. That could be good material for Maine, Maine centric material. But then I said, I instructed the AI to ask me questions. I said, I want to do this trying to figure out the balance between spiritual life and this premise of there's this battle between the kind of aspirations for becoming an enlightened being who's like just wide open, like a Dalai Lama, versus the reality boots on the ground, which is that I'm a mess and there's no way I'm ever going to become the Dalai Lama. And so we leaned into this shining snow rage moment, and the AI started asking me questions. It said, when you say you lost it in the snow, what specifically were you doing? Were you yelling, throwing things? Paint me the physical picture of what someone would have seen if they were watching. And I wrote, I was screaming like Jack does in the Maine at the end of the movie. Guttural animal screams, cursing myself and my life. It was so tiring, as it's like a quarter-mile trek out to the street, but I was trying to tire out the rage, as if the rage was a beast to be slain by pure exhaustion. And it didn't work. I got home and I was still pissed, and then I had some food and was fine. It was literally just a sugar crash, like a hungry toddler. And then it asked, what's the contrast between this moment and how you present yourself in the meditation sessions? What kind of things do you typically say when leading meditation? And I said, in meditation, I literally just try to get people to open their hearts and love themselves and each other, and love every single thing that arises in them, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant. And I use a sort of a quiet voice. And then it asked, before the snow incident, had there been other moments where your spiritual persona and your rage, I love the AI is calling it rage persona. My rage persona clashed. Any funny instances of trying to be Zen and failing miserably. But it really liked, the computer really liked the hungry toddler comparison. Do you see any other parallels between your spiritual journey and toddler behavior? I thought that was a good question. I did a very sort of non-comedic thing about anger, like it's not bad or something to suppress. It's just a problem when it's directed at others, and it's when it's used to harm others, but ultimately is very energizing and can bring you to skillful action, as I say, and deep realizations about all sorts of things, your boundaries, your wounds. And ultimately, anger is almost always a response to being hurt or being afraid. And then it really liked I had talked about this idea of watching my son, this idea of my son will like bump his head or his shoulder on a door frame and like slow play his revenge. He'll be like, grrr! And then he'll go back into the tool closet and like grab a hammer and then like come back to the door and start like talking to the door and being like threatening the door and really just like, this door is alive. My son is 11, this isn't a tiny child. He's just like, door, you're gonna get fucked now. You made your mistake, and obviously the door is never moved. This is 100% my son's fault, and I try not to laugh when I watch this, and I'm charmed by it. I'm sometimes and but I'm looking at it like, oh, look at this young child learning how to process his anger. And then 3 or 4 hours later, I'm like stacking wood, and a piece of wood falls on my hand, and without irony and with just awareness of the rage, but nothing else, I take the piece of wood and I start bashing it against other wood, and I end up taking an axe and being like, you're going to be kindling, bitch. And I just like take out my anger on the wood. Point being, my son and I, there's no difference except that it's way more pathetic because I'm 46 and he's 11. And that's how we kind of found this idea of what would my life be like if I didn't do all this meditation and stuff. And you can never answer that. But I think I think it's helped a lot in being a better parent and friend, husband, just awareness, etc. But then I was like, I don't know. And then I came up with this thing like, oh yeah, mindfulness, the doubt that maybe all this awareness doesn't mean jack squat. Like all your awareness is getting you is just being aware of what a dick you are. And that really like was like a cracking open of something. And I got real, the heart started going pitter patter, and I was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. So then we started getting questions like, what's the most ridiculous realization you've had while being mindful? Like a moment where you're fully aware of how absurd you're being, but you're still doing it anyway. And that's where, it was like, it sort of burst out all the things that I've been thinking about that I even have done, like that you can be mindful while snorting cocaine. And so we started to use that idea of like progression and trying to get things moving, building. I did a bunch of different options for sort of mindful of dark things. Maybe it's mindfully playing Powerball, gambling, ripping a cigarette, just any vice really. That's true to me. It's that combination of the sacred and the profane together. And then we kind of figured out like, okay, let's do this as a meditation, much like I did mindfulness of cocaine already, that episode. If you haven't seen that episode, check it out. It's an episode of something or other. You'll see it. Mindfulness of cocaine. Maybe it's like episode 11. I did it on Christmas. Good Lord. But anyway, so this is basically all that has led to this, and this is all in a day. And so I'm excited. I think there's something here. I'm going to test it out at an open mic. So I'll think it's funny. I'll go, and it probably won't get that many laughs at certain times, but something will, and then we'll keep working on it. And I think that's once we have a premise that's hot, let's say, that's got the tickle. Like you got to stick with it. You got to mine it. You can't. You gotta stick with what feels the best, and then and don't just keep searching for the next shiny object. Let's wring it dry. And so we had a bunch of premises like mindfulness doesn't work, or all it makes you is aware of. And then we had, you can be mindful about anything, mindfully bad series, let's call it. Then this sort of inanimate object rage. There was another thing of just like, you come back from a silent retreat for 7 days, and like for 4 hours, you're just like, oh yeah, I'm amazing. I'm so present with my kids. This is like magic. And then like, something happens and you're like, oh no. And then you go back to being a fucking asshole. Yeah. So we started playing with how to set it up, and then I got on my feet and I did a thing. A lot of times you write it and then you're like, this doesn't feel natural coming out of my mouth. But yeah, we had a thing of like, we were looking for the contrast, like what's the most Zen thing I say in a meditation session, and what's the most un-Zen thing you do that I've done while being completely aware of doing it. And that's the engine for this particular bit. So something I'll say in a meditation I'm leading is like, let's dissolve your awareness into a cloud of boundaryless space, letting all sensations, thoughts, and feelings arise and fall away like waves in the ocean. And then I'll take my son's nunchuck and beat a couch pillow with it 50 to 60 times while pretending the pillow is my mom. No, I'm just kidding, Mom. And I've never done that. I'm just saying that, pretending the pillow is, my enemy. As you breathe in, gently note breathing in, and as you breathe out, gently note breathing out. Cover the breath in this way with your attention, mindfully pressing your boner into your wife's side to let her know that you're ready to party. So, so then we basically we tried to do a build up. So there were 4 kind of situations that are true and relatable. One is like paying attention to your kids when they're telling you the plot of a movie. Pretend, white knuckling the listening when you really, really, really don't already know the plot, first of all. Second of all, they're completely torching the plot, and you're just having to look at them and act like you actually care. So that's it feels like a relatable moment. And then the moment of like telling your kids you're doing work on your phone, but you're really like placing a $3 parlay bet on DraftKings. That feels like a relatable moment for parents. And then as you build it, you can maybe go the emotion, like the nunchucks, build that into it. And then finally, of course, my favorite, which is this idea of mindfully doing cocaine. So without further ado, here is my set after all this work, and then we'll finish up. Okay, let's find a position that's both comfortable and alert, and take a few deep cleansing breaths, dissolving into a cloud of Boundless awareness, letting sounds, sensations, thoughts, and feelings arise and fall away like waves on the sea. That's a really lovely way how I start my weekly meditation sessions. And I think most of my class would be surprised to know what I'm actually like in my house. Because I am mindful, but I'm just mindful of what a disaster I am. So this is how I bring peaceful awareness to a lot of the moments of my life. David, bring loving awareness to the sound of your child's voice becoming more and more distant as you imagine life without them. And you feel the relief and peace that emerges with thoughts of a silent house. As your child describes each character from Moana, observe the growing certainty that you were never meant to be a parent. Mindfulness of sports. I'm super aware of sports and my love of it. Gently notice the excitement arising as you hide your phone under the dinner table and feel the pitter-patter of your heart as you place your 7th $3 parlay of the day. Let awareness rest on the gentle tap-tap-taparoo of your finger, placing bets. And notice how skillfully you've learned to nod at your children while studying the point spread of the Celtics Mavericks game. While studying the point spread of Israeli soccer leagues. I don't know, there's something funnier there. Mindfulness of emotional processing. That's how, whenever I feel a deep, painful emotion, I just am aware. Let's bring gentle awareness to the satisfying whoosh of your son's nunchuck through the air as you hammer the pillow. Notice the sophisticated way your mind transforms this Pottery Barn throw pillow into the face of people who have wronged you. And finally, when I'm prepping a really fun party at the house, I'm mindful the entire time, bringing awareness to the sacred geometry of cocaine powder. Let gratitude arise for the Colombian farmers who made this moment possible. And notice the ever so subtle rationalization that because you paid for it, you deserve the biggest line. Hey, we made it to the end of another episode. Yay! Honestly, if you're here at the end, you really are my comedy buddy. And I've said it before, send me your jokes. The door is open. I love it. I've been collaborating with a couple people. It's so fun. And, I've introduced some new premises. If this sparks some ideas, reach out to me on Instagram at startingstandup.pod@gmail, or text me if you've got my number. I love it. I love it. I want more comedy buddies. I'm so alone. I'm so alone. Also, if anyone you think would resonate with this material, we kind of went from soup to nuts here. We did a complete episode under the hood. And if you think someone would find that fascinating, especially if you know people getting into comedy or people who are maybe thinking about trying something, maybe they'd find value from this. If you think they'd find value, go ahead and share or rate it, leave a review, do those sort of things that everyone asks for. Like and subscribe, man. Good Lord. It's like baby's first words these days. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you so much love, so much peace, so much adventure, and of course, just beautiful, beautiful, life-changing, earth-shattering venery. Until next Thursday. Bye.